Good morning, everybody. My name is Viorel Peca. I'm the head of unit of Transition and Business Acceleration Services at EIC. It is my pleasure to greet you today to this dedicated event for the transition challenges. Transition challenges, as you know, they do not have a dedicated challenge guide, so we thought it makes sense to have a dedicated the info day where we can zoom in a bit more in detail to each and every one of the three challenges. I will be joined a bit later by the PMs that will describe the two other challenges. You can see we have a small introduction, and then we'll start in a few minutes with the first challenges, and after each of the challenges there will be a Q&A session. For that, please use Slido. You see on the upper side the code that you have to use to be able to post your question, and then don't hesitate to vote on the questions that you think are the same as yours or you find relevant, so that we can start in the reverse order. And my colleagues will put the question on screen. If everything is okay, colleagues, then I propose to start with a small introduction to set the scene. So we are talking today about transition, and more precisely transition challenges. And I think it's important to show this introductory slide, which almost physically show that the transition is between the Pathfinder and Accelerator, which has a few consequences in terms of evaluation criteria, activities, and even type of evaluators. And then at the bottom of the three compartment, you see the business acceleration services that is supporting all the three compartments, hence the transition as well. And please do not hesitate, if you are successful, to make use of these business acceleration services. Now, why do we have this transition in general? Well, to put it simple and perhaps a bit provocative, just to start, to make money out of tough science. Okay, as our president said at the launch of the EIC last in 2021, we have the European paradox, and I think it's very important that we are making efforts, as difficult as may be, to get more results out of our excellence in research. So the transition is supporting the maturation and validation of the technologies up to a TRL 5 or 6, but in the same time, and this is very important, with maturation of the business activity. And this is important to take into account in your proposal. This transition is a restricted call, so it's only the schemes that you see on the screen, and more exactly the projects, not the beneficiary, but the projects coming from the old FED scheme, and then the Pathfinder, the ERANETS, and the ERC book. I excuse myself. And then the financial contribution is maximum. Let me repeat, maximum 2.5 million, but we have seen now we are signing contracts which are starting from 1 million, 1 million a bit, and we are encouraging you to explore the full range. Yeah, just to mention that we are talking both about mono beneficiary and small consortia, up to 5 legal entities. This is an important slide to show that the business track basically should start more or less from the beginning of the project, and not just relegated, if you want, at the end of the project, a few months doing something. It's very important that you are starting, that you are looking at your business plan and business model from the beginning, and that there is an interaction between the technology maturation and the business maturation. A few figures if you want. So the total budget for this year will be 131 million euro, and we have almost 71 million for the transition open and 60.5 million for challenges. Roughly half of this budget is dedicated for the first challenge, namely the green digital device for the future, and the 50 million for each of the other two. We have two cutoff dates this year, but this is very important. because it means you don't have to hurry to apply if you are not ready. We want that you start immediately as you sign the grant agreement. So if you are not ready, better to apply in the second half of the year, in the second cutoff date. And then last but not least, we have 20 pages limits this year, including the cover page. So we are now moving towards the transition challenges. I see that we are on time. We were planning to start at 9:15. Let me just mention perhaps that again, in these 20 pages, the first page, what we call cover page, it's an important page because there you have to tell us in this page and not in another part what is your linked project. Okay, as we mentioned, this call is limited to the project that have been supported by those schemes, but not by their beneficiaries. So we actually are encouraging and looking forward for new participants that are, for example, complement the team or just have an agreement with the initial IPR holders to take it to the market so that they are more innovation driven. And then, of course, in the cover page, you need to put the IPR agreement from the previous project or projects. Okay, as I mentioned, this year we have 3 transition challenges compared with 2 for in last year, Work Program 21, and they are the green digital devices for the future, which I will start to mention to talk about in the next minute, and then 2 other process and system integration of clean energy technologies and RNA-based therapies and diagnostics for complex or rare genetic disease. And again, the PMs will join us to present their challenges. I propose to start the first one. I will start first with a bit of if you want bigger information, like why do we have this transition challenge, and then I will go into detail. So now we have seen why do we have transition challenges in general. We have transition in general. Now, why do we have this specific transition challenge, the green digital devices for the future? Well, there are a few drivers. What we see is that there is the current computational paradigms are reaching their performance their limits in terms of performance and miniaturization. And by pushing those boundaries, they are consuming more and more energy, which has a cost and has also another issue in terms of dissipation. But another kind of problem is the high and getting higher ecological footprint. And then if you want in the other direction in terms of opportunities, what we see is that from looking at our projects like FET and Pathfinder, that there are slowly but surely a number of emerging technologies that are maturing. So it may now, we think, looking at the number of projects we thought is the right time to call for this challenge. And obviously, when we called this and thought about this last year, we did not know exactly the state of play today. First of all, I would like to mention the European Chips Act, which is a very ambitious initiative of Commissioner Breton and the European Commission. And we definitely think that this challenge will feed into that, because you see there, this is about global competitiveness. So the cutting edge technologies are very important. These are about our resilience on future crises. So it means the materials on which we'll use are important. And of course, as our president was saying, the innovators and world-class researchers are key for the success of this initiative. So I mean, obviously, at that time I could not foresee this, but definitely is fitting more. And let me say also that unfortunately, the current situation in Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, it's also, unfortunately, let me repeat, a driver for this. Now, I will go a bit over each of the drivers: the energy consumption, ecological footprint, and emerging technologies. Now, it's nice to say it takes more energy, but I tried in this slide, and the idea is not to go line by line, no worry, just to give a bit more concrete feeling how much energy, and the figures are huge. I mean, it's around estimation around 1% of the total, the global worldwide final energy consumption or the demand. It's and without cryptocurrencies, okay? But then this 1%, if you look for each country, is much higher. Like you say, is 5% of all US consumption, and in the UK is even 12%. So these are stunning figures. And again, as we see, unfortunately today, this energy costs more and more and more. So we risk to see it, if not already, in our pockets, in the abonnement that we pay for mobile, for our premium cloud subscription, for email, internet, and so on. But more than that, this energy is causing a huge emission of CO2. Is equivalent, the 100 megatons per year is equivalent with the footprint of the aviation industry, just to put the things in perspective. Now, talking about the higher ecological footprint, you see there the EWaste is the growing waste in the EU, and you see on the right hand side the graphic from the European Parliament, the various type of electrical and electronic and electrical components in the EU. And more than that, there is in 2020 the Commission presented a new circular economy plan, and then the following year, 2021, the European Parliament, they asked additional measure in order to achieve this carbon neutral and toxic free and fully circular economy. But basically, this could be both an obligation and a business opportunity. So again, drivers for for this topic today. Now, I hesitated a bit to put an example, because definitely, or to put examples, because definitely this may distort. But this, I was looking when I prepared the slide on our website, and I've seen this news. Okay, game-changing shift in electronic industry, photons-based computing, and I thought this, without giving details and project name and so on, and without, I mean, clearly saying this doesn't mean anything from the proposal that if anybody will submit such a proposal. This is just an example of one of the many technology that we see maturing. I can mention pintronics, neuromorphic, even bacterial computing. We have a lot of quantum computing and so on. We have a lot of projects and emerging technology that we see slowly but surely maturing, and we definitely hope they will be present in our pool of applicants. Now, going more towards the core of the challenge, what's the goal? What's the challenge for this in this transition? Well, the goal is very clear: to radically improve or solve. Why not? Let's be ambitious. One of the or several of the following the key issues. The one that I mentioned: energy efficiency. We want devices or architectures that are consuming much less energy. We want them not to use non-critical and non-toxic or non-rare earth materials. That's clear. I mean, and to on the whole lifespan, to ensure circular approaches, or at least a high degree of recyclability. And all these challenges put together, 3 or 4, who are maintaining or improving on the performance. That's, I think it's from a consumer but also business perspective. Yeah, if you say I reduce the energy consumption with 50%, maintaining the same performance, I think that's already a very good value proposition. Now, in terms of specific objectives for this challenge, what we are looking at the end of the project is to demonstrate this novel digital device or even a whole architecture. And what we want is clear and quantifiable KPIs, right? That will allow to compare with existing solutions. So think a bit when you design your proposal to make sure that these KPIs are there, because if not, yeah, the experts may consider that your proposal is not clear. And then we are flexible whether you want to harness a not explored process or to have some like an existing device in novel modes that will ensure the challenges. And then in order to be able to compare, you need to identify what are the limits that you are of the current paradigm that you try to improve, because you may choose one or two or several. And then you need to propose these metrics or KPI that will track your progress. And you can even around the project have an iterative approach, and you say, okay, in the beginning I will try improvement with I don't know, 10%, 20, 30, whatever, so that you really show the progress and how you can track it, and you can demonstrate success at the end. And then, of course, as any programming device, you need to think about how you control it, how you program, and how you interface with it, the input-output aspects. Okay, these are obviously important aspects, because let's not forget we are not at TRL 1 or 2 here. We are starting at TRL 3 or even better 4, and we try to reach TRL 6. Now, what we are expecting you or the project at the end of it, and even during its parcours, to solve one or several of the issues that are already mentioned in terms of energy and so on and so on. Again, while maintaining or even improving the performance and the current size form factor. And then, of course, you can understand that the more you can tackle, the better. Okay, we are flexible because we don't want to be very, say, all of them or two of them or 2 out of 4, etc. But you see a bit the challenge and the competition we are trying to put in place. Okay. And then in the medium term, what we want to see is really a commercial, right? So we're putting very clear commercial emergence of this new class, a new breed of green digital device. That's important to have in mind, because this will have an impact on the activity that you may want to put in your proposal. And then in terms of expected impacts, you want to contribute to at least one, if not more, of the following impacts. Then this novel device or architecture that I was mentioning, where we want to see significant decrease in energy, or we want disruptive components, hardware components that will advance towards this the significant integration towards the wafer cell, because we want them to obviously to be produced in the no doubt numerous investment that will happen in the next period, and you have seen the budget is quite impressive. And then one of them could be novel designs of this complete system that would include the next generation devices. And here, of course, you want to put the focus on the compatibility, integration of different technology, for example, CMOS or other current one, right? So we are providing you a range of impact. Okay, it's not can focus at the device level or can go a bit broader and go towards architecture. Now, a bit continuation, if you want. What do we want at the end of the project? So a mature prototype that will, as TRL, you see, if you look at the right-hand side, as you move from TRL 4 to 5 or 6, we're moving from the lab to a relevant environment, which can be close to operational or a high-fidelity lab or something in between. Okay, and we want this technology, this device, validated or demonstrated in the relevant environment, and in this, and then don't forget what is also specific here is that we don't only want to see this demonstration or validation, but we want also to see the comparison with the current technology. In other words, we want you to demonstrate the advantages, whether in a specialized field, in a what we call niche application, or in a more general device. Okay, so we want to see this validation or demonstration, and how it compares with the current state of play. Okay, so it's not only just the first one, you also need to demonstrate the advantages compared with the current solution. And then, which is typical for transition, don't forget about the business model. Again, from the beginning to the end, and you will refine it and improve it. We want to see the business plan and the business model as to go to the market, because that's what we want. Remember, emergence of a commercial emergence of a new class of device. And then, of course, we hope with all these three together, we hope to unlock the potential of this field and to generate impact, both in terms of economic returns, sales, the new business, but also in terms of societal benefits, in terms of reduced energy emissions and so on, and less toxic material. Now, for this topic, we have specific conditions. I think it's my colleagues that put in the inter-service the first statement that this topic has to have impact on sustainability, non-critical and non-toxic raw material, and ensure a high degree of recyclability in the whole life cycle. So it's not only in the beginning when you produce the material, but also as you exploit and then as you end its life. And then this is new compared with the challenges in Work Program 2021. So if at the end of the jury phase, the go proposal will be above the budget that we allocate for each and every challenge. By the way, this is the same for all three challenges. Then we will apply what we say portfolio consideration. And excuse me, for this specific challenge, and if I remember correctly, for the other two as well, the portfolio consideration will be a balanced portfolio in terms of technologies or type of devices. Okay, so we are not going for a kind of like subsystem portfolio or considerations. No, we will try to have a bit of balance of various technologies. If I'm not mistaken, this, yeah, not yet. We have one or two more slides. This is the if you want a poll that we have asked the jury members at the end of the jury phase to tell us a bit what were the, let's say, the major weaknesses of the proposal that they did not make it, basically, and what are the strengths of the proposals that they give it a go. And I think it's very interesting and important to look at these two in the mirror. So first of all, if we start on the left-hand side, the very few proposals failed because they were not novel, which is a bit too, and in the same time, the one that the strength of proposals that passed that received a go were novelty. So what does it mean? It means that, which is not surprised, because they are coming from Pathfinder, from FED, from ERC. Most of them were novel. Okay. Then if you look at reasons to if you look at the team, this is very important. It shows, if you look on the right hand side, that the major strengths of the proposal and make it were the team. And you should look at this team slightly different, if not different, than what it means in Pathfinder. It means the team not only having the skills and the competencies to advance the research and to mature the technology, this is clear, we are still at early TRL, but also to advance towards the market. I think this is very important and a big difference with Pathfinder or even to ERC. So please take into account. And if you look there, this was an important factor of the to fail. Okay, unfortunately, don't see is, I think it's 54 or 57 there, the teaming consortium or the exploitation part. And then one of the biggest by far reason to fail was the lack of understanding of the market or the competition. Okay, and then you see 56% of the same criteria to were a major strength. And that's why we modify the question, the three questions in the beginning, more exactly the middle one, to draw your attention about this aspect. So think about do this early market exploration and business and even competition. Yeah, these are the conclusions which I put on the info day of the transition challenges on 22nd, and this gives me the opportunity to present you the link there and to encourage you, if you want to apply for for any of the transition challenges, to see that recording, because there we provide more info on the transition in general, and obviously the transition challenges respect the same condition and so on as for transition in general. So I was mentioning these three guiding questions. It's very important that you answer them honestly for yourself, not before anybody else. And the answer to all three of them is yes. And then, although I know that I may be a bit too much to ask, but you really look at the motivations that you want to. Why do you want to apply? Do you want to apply because you are excited about this challenge? I provided the big picture in the beginning, not for nothing, just to provide. It is important to take this high level consideration into account, and you see the importance and the opportunity of this challenge. So, you know, it's very important to apply if you are indeed have a technology that could be a game changer there, and not just because you see here, well, that's a big pot of money. Let's apply it as well. Pay attention to the minimum maturity of the technology. I think that's an important aspect, and work in parallel to this both to the two tracks. The weight of these two tracks, the technology maturation, the business maturation, can be different, and we have provided in the work program. We have these illustrative examples. So it's perfectly okay to have more effort to any of them, but you need to work on both of them and pretty from the beginning. And then the team, as you've seen how important it is, and you need to have a team with these dual competencies, or you need to have a good plan, a convincing plan to achieve this. One of the, I mean, obviously the innovation component competence across as the project goes. And then, as opposed to this year, where we have only 2021, when we had only one cutoff, and we are not clear, we are really expecting that you will start within 2 months from the grant signature, or 4 months actually from when we inform you. Okay. And then if you think you are not ready for that, for whatever reason, that doesn't matter. I mean, there can be a lot of reasons that we give you, but then better to apply in the second half of the year. Okay. And then, and by the way, all the challenges will be available for both cutoffs. Okay, so don't need to rush to the first cutoff and so on. But all three of them are open from the beginning. They are open as actually now, and they will be open in both cutoffs. And then, as if you succeed, do not forget to make use of the business acceleration, and more exactly, tech to market. So the early stage business acceleration services that we are now, as we speak, we're building this up for your benefit. And then, like mentioned, I invite you to consult the presentation for the transition which we had on the 22nd, and that is available as a record at the URL there. I think I reached the end of my my presentation, so I would like to thank you, and I think hand it over to my colleagues for to present the questions.
Good morning. So we have a first question. Thank you for mentioning that there will be a recording. It will be made available on YouTube. As an NCP, I would like to share this with applicants. So the answer is yes. It will be made available on the webpage of the EIC transition call, and possibly on YouTube. The second question is, thank you for the training. When the Commission choose a challenge, does the Commission make an advanced survey to find the amount of candidate projects?
A very good question. Marco, I invite you to answer together. So I think for the transition, because there is a restricted call, the process to come up with challenges is a bit it comes from two directions. So first of all, definitely we are looking to the number of potential projects, to the number of projects that are in certain areas. Okay. So obviously that doesn't say anything if they will apply or not, but at least it shows the potential, and apart from that, or even before that, we are looking at various trends, opportunities, as we've seen here, whether like maturation of certain technology that we've seen in the past, or other trends from like we've seen with RNA, the other challenge. And then obviously we are so it can come from both directions. So whether we do analysis of our pool of projects, and it's more easy to do from Pathfinder than for, but the PMs are also very in contact with ERC, so they are doing also from the ERC side, or we are going from the trend side and opportunity sides, and then we are checking if we are backed by projects in our portfolio. But Marco, perhaps you can say a few words about this.
Yes, well, as you mentioned, this analysis was made on the eligible projects that can apply to this call, and it showed a certain amount of projects that could apply to these challenges. Of course, what I can say is that sometimes it's not easy to identify the potential results of a project that can be brought into this transition, because I like to remember that it's not only the main result that can be brought into the transition application, but it's sometimes also side results, unexpected results that were not initially foreseen in the project, in the initial project.
Absolutely, absolutely, Marco, and we see from other studies like FET traces that serendipity it's a lot means a lot for the FET projects in the past, and that is clear. But this question gives me the opportunity to mention that at the request of NCPs and program committee, we have made a list of all eligible projects for transition in general, not just challenge or this one, that is available on our website. And last year we were reticent to do this, but the kind of the argument that convinced us to do it, and it's a very powerful one, that's why I would like to mention it here, is that by having this list of projects, again, eligible projects, and with a big disclaimer there, let's say the new applicants, the ones that were not involved in the initial project, can find this information, and then they can look at those projects on Cordis, for example. If you give the project name, and then you see Cordis Europe EC project, then you will find almost always the first or the second the description of this project in Cordis, and even what is the consortium and addresses. There are other the data hub that you see on our website is another way to find this, and Innovation Radar, it's also another way to do it. So by providing this list, we the reason was that we can encourage the new participants in the transition.
Another question is, what is the portfolio consideration?
Thank you very much. Very, very good question. Well, I think if you want a bit more detail about the portfolio consideration in general, you can also look at the text that is in the Pathfinder. But there are various ways in which you can look at portfolio. One of them is this balanced approach in terms of technology. So let's assume, let's give which is what we have in the transition challenge. And let me zoom a bit into that. So I mentioned 2 or 3 examples. Okay, again, it's don't assume that we give any preference, but just let's say quantum, neuromorphic, spintronics, and bacterial computing. Okay, let's just take these 4, and then let's assume we have 40 projects, and we can only and then this exceed the 30 billion that we have, or but actually we'll have to do it 2 times. So it's 15 million in the first cutoff, 15 million in the second cutoff. Then what we will do, we will look to make sure that we don't have, let's say, 8 projects from any of the technologies that I mentioned, but that we are trying to have a balance, so that we can give a chance to quantum computing to advance. We give a chance to spintronics, to neuromorphic, and even to bacteria. Okay, so that's this. Another approach that you can build a portfolio is to say, but look, if my goal is the emergence of the commercial emergence of a new class of devices and even systems architecture, if I take the architecture view, for example, then I can say, well, look, in order to have the whole architecture, I need this and this component. And then I make sure that I have at least 1 or 2 proposals for each subcomponent, so that I can build a puzzle, I can build architecture. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to fund 5 projects from the subsystem number 1 and nothing from subsystem number 2. So just these are, but again, in this case, we want to go for to try to test the different technologies. Marco, another question?
Yes, we have 2 other questions. I've been working in technology since 1986, and I have difficulties combining the green goal with technology. Who is working on green components for equipment?
Not sure if I understand the question. How it's difficult to combine the technology with the green component?
Yes, I have difficulty combining the green goal with technology. Who is working on green components? I think here the question refers to the fact that the green components for equipment are not easy to find. Well, what I can say is that that's the core of the challenge. It's necessary to put together components for IT that satisfy this green goal.
Absolutely, Marco. This is, I mean, we have the 3 or 4 green challenges that I mentioned, reducing the energy consumption. So, for example, if you move from electrons to photons, you will tremendously reduce your energy consumption. That's quite clear. But then another challenge that we have is to have materials that are non-toxic and non-rare earth, and that there is a high degree of recyclability. So these are, I would say, core question for the green aspect. So it's yeah. Like I said, the technology, these are at the core of our challenge. So
Yes, another question. Adding a company when the company does not ask for funding, they will participate in the demonstration phase with their own budget. Is it a strength or a weakness?
So if I understand, that is adding a company that will participate but without asking for budget.
Yeah,
right? And if
correct.
that's good or not.
Yes.
Marco, what do you think?
Well, it depends. I would say that there needs to be a reason for adding a company, and the company needs to have a credible role. Adding a company only for the sake of having a company in an academic consortium, it's not worth. Every partner in an application needs to be there for a reason and a solid reason. So adding just a company for the sake of having a private entity, it's not worth.
Absolutely, Marco. I think this is the most important. And again, I would go beyond this just a company or not company. I think, you know, having a partner in the consortium is a serious business, because yeah, here they have specific rights, for example, on the foreground, on background, and so on and so on. And there are alternatives to that, by the way. So you don't have to think there is only one site. So they can be used as subcontracting, for example, if you need their specific expertise. And we see in the current proposals that are under GAP, we see there are subcontracting. You just need to describe it very clearly and to justify. There is nothing, no, you will not be penalized for that. Another approach that you can use is to put a letter of support from this company saying that they are very interested in this technology, and they are, if they're successful and when it reached TRL 5 or whatever, they are offering to test it, to trial it in their products, and to use it. So that and this obviously has to be signed by somebody in the representative for that company, and it's another option, okay, or subcontracting. So don't assume it's just the partner of the company, just that you add the company there as a partner of consortium.
Okay, I don't see other questions. If anyone wants to ask a question, can do this either in the question and answer of the WebEx, or also in the Slido.
Well, I see in the chat, I see a question from and it says the following. I have the following question: can the transition grant be used partly or entirely for creating or funding the startup does not exist when the project is submitted? Well, we've seen a few proposals, and that were also selected, that do not have let's say a SME or other company in their consortium, but they say that at one moment during the project, that they plan to create a spin-off or to create a startup. And I will invite also Marco to comment on that. This is, again, we're in GAP now, so they've been great, and this is quite okay. You just need to make sure that this is credible, okay? So in the transition, you know, we are not kind of one size, one pathways to commercialization. We say there are 101 pathways to commercialization, okay? So this can be one of them, and it can be perfectly okay that you are not starting with a company or a spin-off, but then during the project, and you will create it. But then again, you need to demonstrate that this intention is credible. What we see, for example, we've seen in some other projects, is that they even identify who may be the CEO or CTO, and they even and then of course the IP becomes very important in this case. Okay, Marco, if you have any other reflection here, question.
No, I don't have anything to add to this. I think it's
so I would say, yeah, it's possible to have spin-offs during the project life cycle. Can we merge two FET-open projects? Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, and I think even in the program, in the work program, we put an S there to say result of project or projects. Of course, no, that we have seen, and it's perfectly okay. And you need to, yeah, in the landing page to mention these projects, and then to explain in the proposal which part and is taken from which project and how they contribute. That's clear. Any other question? See that we still have time, so I ask my colleagues to invite my Danos to prepare.
Viorel, yes, there is another question about the portfolio consideration. How will this be applied over the two deadlines? I can maybe suggest essentially the portfolio consideration is applied per deadline. So the proposal that come to the interview to the interview phase, and that are successful, then the portfolio consideration are applied. So per deadline. So there will be no consideration with, of course, with the following. There might be consideration with the past, but it's
Indeed, I think the past is here the key word, Marco, because indeed when we arrive to the second cutoff dates, then we need to take into considerations what was already submitted, so that overall we have a balanced portfolio. And then, of course, in the beginning, in the first cutoff date, we may have a bit of flexibility, not much, because we don't want to starve the budget of the other cutoff dates, but we have foreseen, we have put things that in the work program that will allow us this flexibility.
Okay, another question is, does the dual competence have to apply to the whole team, or duties, business versus technology development, can be split between the different partners? I can take this if you
Please.
if you agree. Absolutely, these roles don't need to coexist in the same partner, in the same person, or in the same team member. This, of course, can be split, of course, and it makes a lot of sense.
Of course, no, this is clear, and that's why you want to have a consortium, no? I see here in the chat a follow-up question concerning the startup. How exactly can the startup claim cost? Does it appear explicitly in the grant agreement?
Technically, if a startup is created during the life cycle of the project, an amendment can be made, and roles and tasks can be assigned to the startup, including a budget for those tasks, and so it will become a normal beneficiary of the grant. Of course, it's important to do this in time. If a project is lasting 24 months, it makes sense to do this not in the last 3 months, but possibly not later than halfway of the project.
Absolutely, Marco. And let me highlight here the flexibility that we are giving in terms of budget and in terms of duration. Okay, we have seen there are these three pathways, and we see them appearing. Okay, we'll do a deeper analysis. But for example, if you look the last one, this transition to entrepreneurship. We do see a few proposals that are not asking for 2.5 million, but are more at a million 15, 20, 30K. And there you see there is somebody that participated in, obviously, in a project, and they take the results, start up a company, and then they are just a mono beneficiary, and they don't need 2.5 million. But this one is also very, this is possible, and then you can choose, you can vary the duration to make sure that it fits your needs. We are trying to be as flexible as possible without, just without giving any guidance. And then, if you want If you need more than 3 years, we're not saying it's not okay, but definitely what we'll do more, we will check and we'll ask a higher proof of burden of proof if you need more than 3 years, for example. Okay.
There is a question I have. Maybe it would be easier to copy the email I have received, if you agree. Maybe this question can be answered individually, or if you want to reformulate the question. Let's see.
Marco, till the participants reformulate the question, I have a very interesting question in the chat. There is any limitation on the number of partners that can participate in the project? Yes, very good question. I will not put back the slides, but the idea is that here we have anything between mono beneficiary to 5 participants, to 5 members in the consortium. Okay, so these are small consortia. So yes, there is a limitation, which is 5. Now, just to highlight here another questions that we received during the transition open info day, saying, are there associated partners, right? This is the word, Marco.
Yes, correct.
Namely UK and Switzerland, counting towards this number. And the answer is that no, they are not counting, but in the letter, because they do not participate, they do not participate with, they do not ask for funding. They need to come with their own funding, but they count towards the spirit, because the reason why we put this 5 there is not a legalistic one. Okay, I put 4 or 6 or whatever. It is more a very practical one, which is that as you move towards research to innovation, you move a bit from collaboration to competition, and you cannot just compete and be agile and be fast with 10 members in the consortium. Okay, just to pick one number. So to take 5 even as a maximum in regardless if you have UK or non-UK or Switzerland participants, and the size of your consortium we should be as small as possible to suit your needs. Okay. And what we have seen, actually, it's very interesting. We have seen a V distribution, really. The average of participants is 3, but 3 is also the smallest number of projects with 3 participants. The highest in absolute number is the mono beneficiary, and this is probably because 60% of the projects of the 42 projects are coming from ERC POC. Okay, and that doesn't mean all of them are mono beneficiary, but I think most of them are, and they can also have a mono beneficiary with just university, for example, but also a lot of startups. Okay, and then the highest number, the next highest number, absolute number, is 5, which probably they come from Pathfinder. So yeah, that I hope this provides you an answer to your question. Do we have now a clearer formulation, Marco?
I asked to send an email, and maybe this will be answered later on.
Okay, okay. Good. So it's 10 o'clock. Do we have other questions? The last call, both on the chat or on Slido.
Is it okay if all partners come from the same EU country? I can answer this. No, it's not okay. The requirements are for one beneficiary coming, of course, from one EU or associated country, 2 beneficiaries coming from 2 different member states or associated country, 3 beneficiaries coming from at least 3 different EU member states or associated country, of which at least 1 member state, and with 4 applies the same rule, at least 4 or 5 partners, at least from 3 different member states or associated country, of which 1 member state.
Absolutely, this is clear, and I'd like to thanks for the question, by the way, because unfortunately we had quite a few proposals that did not fulfill this criteria. Surprisingly, also you need to think of this criteria in combination with associated partners like Switzerland and UK, because what happened is the dynamics is very interesting. So what happens, for example, we had projects with 4 beneficiaries, and they were from 3 countries, but then because UK was not taken into consideration, then they remain 3 beneficiaries, but not from 3 countries, from 2 countries, and their project become ineligible. Okay, so you need to think that to take these dynamics also into account. That's why I advise you to listen to the presentation that we had on 22nd of February, and obviously to contact your NCPs. I think they are clearly the first line of support, if you want, and we are supporting them as well in case that the question that you ask is they don't know it, but and we train them, etc. etc. So don't hesitate first to listen to these presentations, read well the work program, and then contact your NCP if you have any question. Okay, I don't see any other questions on chat. Marco, do you see anything on the?
There is a question concerning the materials with which to build the devices. What are the reference centers for the purchase of these green components with less impact?
That's a good question. Not sure we can indicate any entities, commercial entities that we cannot do. We don't have any preference here or discrimination. That's clear.
If I might add something, the proposal needs to be innovative. Just assembling components by procuring them by existing suppliers does not make necessarily the proposal very innovative. I think here there should be an effort to go a bit beyond of simple integration of commercially available green components, if I might.
Yes, of course, Marco. And also, I mean, as you move towards the TRL ladder, obviously you need to think about how will you manufacture your new device, but that comes a bit at a higher TRL. But you can give consideration already, and because somebody will need to make your prototype. So, and from that point, we advise you to look, because there are a lot of other initiatives, including funding Fab Labs and access to the specialized labs that can manufacture a small number of prototypes, and they even are supported by other let's say by Horizon Europe, or in the past Horizon 2020 digital innovation hubs, etc. So you may want to explore this wider ecosystem.
I think we can give now the floor to Thanos, our PM. The questions that are unanswered will be answered individually in the chat.
Yes, and we'll also look them. We see if they are not yet answered in the FAQ, or we need to add them or update existing one. We always do so. Thank you very much. This is for also for other applicants that perhaps are not here today. Okay, thank you very much for your question. I'm looking forward to see your applications for this challenge, and I hope you are excited as I am about this opportunity for Europe. Thank you very much. Over to Danos.
Good morning to everybody, and first of all, I'd like to thank colleagues Viorel, Peca, and Marco Giorgini for the kind invitation to present our idea, our call, the RNA therapeutics and diagnostics approach, which is really ideal, in my opinion, for transition phase, transition instrument. Transition is really a big novelty, and there are lots of expectations for the projects that are at this phase, and for Europe is of great importance. So let me try to share my presentation, because that's not always easy to do. Can you see it? Is it?
Not yet. You have the share button, which is just right of start video.
You're now presenter, Danos. You have now the rights.
Can you see it now, right? You confirm?
Not yet. You need to share content next to start video.
One second. I did share content, but...
And then select the file.
Okay, sorry for that. God.
No problem.
We have time.
Maybe I should go back and... Supposed to be sharing, but I did something wrong, obviously, so I need to close it again.
It's coming. It is. Just put it in presentation mode.
Excellent.
We managed it. Again, good morning to everybody. I'm sorry for this seconds delay. It's a pleasure to present to you, to share with you what we have in mind and why we are so excited about this call. And again, many thanks to Viorel, Peca, and Marco Giorgini for this opportunity. What I'd like to be discussing today, to go through with you, to walk you through, is you see it in this table of contents. And I'm very pleased that Viorel and Marco answered many technical questions, so that allows me to focus on the content and on the reasons that are behind our selection, and why do we think this is really promising, and why we think this is really very suitable for transition. So very few but indicative words, in my opinion, about the current trends in the field. What are the different types of RNA technologies and the disease that are involved? Then we'll talk very briefly about advantages and challenges, and the challenges are the important element to be addressed also in this call, hopefully, with the proposals to be received. What are, very quickly, although this is known and it's published, the objectives, the outcomes, and the requirements for the challenge. And then the second part of my talk will focus on trying to convince you why this area is now exploding, is really so important for Europe and globally, of course. what are the market trends, and at the end, I will share with you a very recent development that I hope you also find exciting, which really, I would say, more than justifies our selection to have this call in the transition. It's a very recent and quite important development. In terms of, you all know that RNA has become known to the world because, of course, of the pandemic, and there is a growing number of RNA drugs that are based on RNA currently in clinical trials. But when we say growing number, it still is a very small number compared to other drugs or other diseases or other approaches. To be more specific, we're talking about in last year, 35 therapeutics were approved for clinical trials, and 23 of them were for mRNA. I'm sure you all have heard that mRNA is the platform that the current vaccines were developed for the pandemic. And the area is growing really fast. I won't get into details. You all have heard about mRNA, but there are also other types of RNA. These are listed here. These are all potential platforms, and there has been work on those, as I'll present later, and that you can have therapeutics or diagnostics from these different 4 types of RNAs that we are focusing. That's why we're talking, that's where the title of the call and our approach is RNA-based therapeutics and diagnostics. And of course, there is a wide spectrum of disease that is targeted by using the RNA-based platforms, which are shown here. Besides cancer, immunotherapies, we have infectious disease, rare diseases, which is also how this call is titled, and also other indications that would require therapy that's based on protein that is encoded by the RNA. What are some really important aspects when you are developing these RNA platforms? They are shown here. It's the optimization of the system, is the formulation, is that you deliver on site, deliver the cargo, deliver what you want to the target tissue, and you deliver it without off-site effects. So these are very important aspects for all mRNA approaches, all mRNA platforms targeted to different diseases. It's not only one disease. We're talking about a wide range of diseases. So more or less the same aspects need to be taken into serious consideration. Some of the advantages of those that have selected mRNA approach in developing therapeutics are shown in this slide. First of all is the fact that what the therapeutic protein is developed within the body. So this is very different than when you have to develop a protein, to manufacture a protein, a peptide, and then inject it, and then find a way to administer it as a treatment. In this case, you understand, it's a different approach that happens within the body, and that allows you, of course, to have the production, excuse me again, that is more cost efficient, is faster, and more flexible. Also, I hope it's understandable that by administering the mRNA through the platform that you are developing, and this is the purpose of this call, you can do that in a personalized manner. So all these, in a way, constitute some of main advantages, in our opinion, for the approaches that are based on mRNA therapeutics. But as always, what are the pros and cons? What are the challenges of these approaches? Is, of course, the delivery. Many people around the world are trying to address and tackle the problems of the delivery. We're talking about with the mRNA is quite long, is a big molecule, and you want to deliver it in a safe mode, and you want to make that very, very targeted and successful delivery. So we are. And with this call, we want to address this challenge, and we're seeking for novel delivery strategies and novel delivery systems that could be proven superior to what is currently state of the art, in order to be more effective and safe in terms of delivery. It's also a very big problem. You probably have heard it from all these discussions, even in the media, about the mRNA vaccines, that there is always a problem of stabilization. All the RNAs are known because they are degraded very, very easily. So delivery, stabilizations, conditions, these are key challenges. that was about the mRNA, which is most of the attention and most of the eyes are on mRNA for obvious reasons. But there are other types of RNA that, of course, are not really known outside of the people who are working in these fields, and these are small communities. Not so small in the case of what is called small interfering RNAs, but definitely smaller communities in terms of transfer RNA and microRNA. I will present in the end of my presentation an exciting development in one of these three types that makes us really very excited that we have included that in the current call. Based on what I've said, the specific objectives of this challenge have to do, of course, with effective and safe delivery. As my colleague Viorel Peca described, please have in mind that we're at the transition phase. We're talking about validation of the technology more than in a lab in the relevant environment. So this is what we are focusing in preclinically validating these novel RNAs, all types of old RNAs that are included in the call for complex and rare diseases. And also, this call is not only about therapeutics, about diagnostics. So the same level of development in terms and validation of technologies that have to do with RNA-based diagnostics. And in most of these cases, we're talking about predictive biomarkers. That's how we can do what we want to use to stratify patients to subgroup and be able to contribute to what is called molecular pathogenesis with all these predictive biomarkers and talk about favorable or unfavorable treatment if it concerns recurrence and progression of the disease. So it's for both these biomarkers, for more accurate diagnosis, of course, early and more accurate diagnosis, but also you can achieve prognosis, favorable or non-favorable. And the expected outcomes are, of course, associated and related to the objectives that I just presented. We would like to have good proposals that can contribute to achieve more effective and safer RNA delivery methods. Again, this is the real pain, even at this moment, at this phase, and after all the work that has been different groups have undergone with, we still need to do better at this particular element. And as I said, we would like to have proposals that can lead to the development of systems, RNA-based systems that when you use them, you can classify subtypes of different tumors, for instance, in oncology, stratify patients. And when you stratify patients, it always adds to what you can offer later on in the clinic, because this subgrouping is the new logic as we are moving on in the personalized and precision medicine era. It's not one size fits all, and these systems are ideal, are the best from the different tools that we have to be able to group and subgroup patients and offer more personalized treatments, especially in cases of high unmet medical needs. And of course, are very welcome sound and new novel ideas when we do this validation. It can be different components in the process of validation. Some sound ideas and novel ideas can make the difference. Please have in mind that the working environment, if I can put it this way, the frame that all these proposals is, we are working on an RNA platform. This is not about basic research. You already have the RNA platform. You already have the platform, and you can try to improve. You try to validate, you try to bring some new elements that would make the difference in the end. This is work on the basis of an RNA-based therapeutic platform that would generate the new drugs, of course. And Viorel has described that excellently, where we start and what is the end point for every challenge, and for this transition challenge that we need to bring from the first evidence in the lab. We need to be able to really validate and demonstrate, and have also a commercialization strategy, have a business plan, and be able to convince that this process from the TRL4, TRL6 is called, or this process of validating a relevant environment is doable, convincing arguments, and the proposal has what it takes in order to achieve this validation, which would allow the further development to a clinical stage later on after the transition phase. Let me now focus some evidence for you. The purpose of the rest of the presentation is to share with you why this area is really exciting. There are some companies, not many, and you have heard about BioNTech and Moderna because of the pandemic, that have really been developed in the last 2-3 years. Excuse me. There wasn't too much activity, let's say before 5 years. And I have listed here 3 public companies, top ranked, and 3 private companies in terms of based on capitalization in the case of the private companies, and based on, of course, revenues in the case of the public companies that are reported. One of the 4 categories outside mRNA has to do with small interference RNA. That's probably the most worked up area so far. But when we are talking so far, we're talking again about the last years. I mean, this sRNA is known, and there is activity, and I think after 2012. But most of the activity is in the last 3-4 years. So even for siRNA, where we have the highest number of companies worldwide, 37 companies are noted here, aiming to treat genetic and rare diseases. We're talking about small numbers if you think of what's happening in other areas. And only 4 siRNA drugs approved since 2018. But something else for you that might be interesting to know is, in the end, if you develop something worth like Dicerna, that was acquired by a corporation at 3 billion. Also, another company in the field of siRNA that made some progress, remarkable progress, Arrowhead, it was partnered with a big corporation, and you see the numbers of the investment. 120 million investment in one company in the field is twice, the money that we have for the transition goals. So all that is just to share with you the importance, the economic importance, and of course the societal importance of the companies that are in this area. There are not many, but there are lots of eyes on them, because each one of them is a potential candidate to bring a new drug that will make the difference, especially in the unmet medical the conditions that are still unmet medically. And then allow me to say, to share with you what the pharma does. That was, it's also very indicative that, and strong evidence, I would say more than indicative, that the pharma now is, they're developing strategies, how to incorporate mRNA technology platforms in their pipelines. And of course, we're talking moving beyond the applications of the pandemic to other areas. And I have highlighted rare diseases. That's why we're also focused on rare diseases. This is evidence to you that our call is timely. Our call is on the edge. We are we're seeking for proposals that are these are also priorities in the strategic priorities from the big corporations. So it couldn't be more timely. This is the purpose, one of the purpose of this slide to share with you. The second is, if you read the second bullet, you will see that we're not talking about in general RNA. The area advances so rapidly that one of the big corporations, Sanofi, has just launched an mRNA Center of Excellence with 400 million investment annually. 400 million investment annually by one company, 4 years to come. And we will be providing 50 million, and perhaps we are among the very few public organizations that we are paying for, who are focusing specifically on the excellence around mRNA platforms. So we are particularly happy to see this development. We are particularly happy to see that we are developing together with the leading big corporations, the leading companies around the world. Finally, we can say that we're even really among what we do is in the forefront of development in the field. If you read the last bullet of this slide, that says that another big corporation is launching an institute which will be in place in 2 years from now. And what they want to bring there is RNA-based therapy. So we are issuing the call now, and leading industry will have in place this in 2 years. So I hope all this is convincing to you that we are really on the forefront, And this is whatever all the work around mRNA platforms is really pioneering. And there are promising looks, as I have in this slide, for 3 different types of RNA. mRNA can really be enhanced and can really be improved if we, of course, involve artificial intelligence. This is very easily to be said, but it's not easily to be implemented. There are some indications for other types of RNA, like the long code RNA, that may play a role. These are insights that may lead to breakthroughs in breast cancer. And I will focus now on tRNA, the least known tRNA. And there it comes something that I consider as a very big catch for this transition challenge. Why am I saying that? We included tRNA in this call, I guess, when we first discussed it, and when I was really thinking about that, and I included this call with having second thoughts whether it's very premature to talk about tRNA. But the development since it was first conceived and put in this call has really proven favoring us. There is a lot of excitement about this molecule, and companies are starting to focus on that. Why is that? It's about a mechanism that, if it works out, it can really have an impact on more than 10% of all inherited diseases. The tRNA is I don't want to get you in technical details, but it's something that can really stop the production of a full length protein with all the associated clinical manifestations. What is important here is a totally new logic, and we'd like to see for proposals that could answer that. A totally new logic in terms of how you approach medical conditions. You can run what is called basket trials, because you will be curing, you will be correcting a pathogenic, what is called Nansen mutation, that because of the role it plays in different pathways, it can have an impact, sometimes even cure. We'd like to hope, we'd like to be ambitious, as Viorel said, in a range of diseases. So it's an approach that is not based on the disease tumor type. It can be developed, not an approach can be developed, not depending on clinical manifestations, but depending on the pathways that are involved and actually impacting on different diseases. You can read a quote by the Deputy Director of the U.S. National Center of Advanced Sciences, and that's why we believe that tRNA, and there is an article in the latest issue of Nature Biotechnology. You can read it. It could be something very big in the future. Could be, remains to be seen, of course. And this is my last slide I'd like to share with you. So our excitement is, at EIC, in the transition, we have considered, I was personally very reassuring for me, we put this into the call 6 months ago. 6 months ago, none of this activity was known. Right now, Flagship Ventures is the VC behind Moderna. So it is possible that tRNA could be the next big thing. When we say high risk, high gain, is exactly that. We are among the first that we have put this into our call. Flagship Ventures is the same venture capital that funded Moderna, and they created the company and they put 50 million, which is equal to the size of the transition call, in order to support this company that is developing the tRNA approach. So the big question is tRNA the next big thing in this field? Even if it is not the next big thing, we are extremely confident that the work, and we invite proposals in this, they would really advance our knowledge. And if it works out, then we're talking about an approach, as I said, that has applications in both rare and common human diseases, and is not disease specific, which I believe you'll understand is like a reference, like a molecule that is involved in many pathways and can make the difference for many diseases. I'd like to stop here and say once again that we are extremely happy with the fact that we have included in our call the possible next big thing in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Danos, there is immediately already a question that I can read it to you. Would adeno, I think adenovirus activated mediated therapies that encode miRNA be applicable to this call?
If I go back the slide, we're talking about the microRNAs, MIs, with small letters, of course, where it's included in the call. The microRNAs are associated with a RNA-based system. We have to do more with diagnosis. Yes, it's one we have it in the call. It's specifically said.
Yes, I think the question refers specifically to the adeno-associated virus as a vector.
The vectors, the adeno-associated virus, are used extensively, and we had a call in the Pathfinder in the cell and gene therapy systems. If the proposal, how can I say, if the focus of the proposal is on the microRNA, yes, it is relevant.
Okay, so not necessarily on the adeno-associated
No.
virus.
These vectors, these viruses, which are vectors for cell and gene therapy, are not the scope of the current call. The scope of the current call, it has to always to do with an RNA-based system, an RNA-based platform development and validation, and microRNAs. They are primarily known for the existing evidence with diagnostics and not so much with therapeutics. So the focus should be on the microRNA, not on the vector.
Okay, there is another question from George. Is an mRNA-based therapeutic strategy that is not related to tRNA or microRNA or a novel delivery method for mRNA relevant to the EIC challenge?
Let me go back to the slide. Maybe absolutely yes is the answer, because mRNA, we are expecting most of the proposals to be in the mRNA field for obvious reasons. So of course it is. There are systems mRNA developed not only cancer but for other diseases outside of COVID, outside of the known. And let me go back. So you see here that these are development aspects. So we are seeking for proposals that can contribute to all the existing key aspects that we want to see them improved in the mRNA platforms: optimization, formulation, delivery, avoid off-target delivery, and all that. So of course, absolutely.
Okay. Other
I think it's here. I'm sorry, Marco.
please.
Yeah, all these different classes of RNA are described in the call.
Marco, do we have on slide or other question? Because I see a question in the chat.
Yes, unfortunately, I cannot share the page of Slido, but I'm monitoring it. So there are no questions coming from Slido at the moment.
I have a question that I see in the chat. So it says, if I understood correctly, it is entirely possible to submit a proposal as a single academic institution, but include the startup in the project. Our plan is to include the startup from the beginning of the project. However, the company will not be created at the submission of the project because of delays in negotiated IP transfer, but should be incorporated at the signature of the grant agreement if the project is accepted. Could you confirm that this precise scenario is possible? Well, I'll invite Marco to comment on this, but my reflection are the following. So to be able to submit a proposal and a partner, you will need a PIC, okay, participant identification code, okay, and then you go to the PDM URF portal and you get a temporary PIC. and that takes whatever, a few minutes, an hour maximum. And with that peak, not validated peak, let me highlight, then you can submit your proposal. Without a peak, you cannot submit your proposal, you know, I mean, to register a beneficiary. So it's a question of risk. Okay, you don't need the peak to be validated, so you can put whatever data there. But then before you sign the grant, if you are successful, of course, before you sign the grant, every participant needs to be validated by the PDM-URF. And then the colleagues there, the colleagues from REA, will ask you a certain number of documents, okay? So if your company is not created at that time, again, we are talking about evaluation and information, and then you have these 2 months from the moment that we inform you that you are successful till you have to sign the grants, in which this peak has to be validated, and you need to provide this. So your company, in not more than theory, will need to be created at the latest 4 months after we close the call. Okay, because afterwards they will immediately contact you to be able to provide this data, the paper of the company, all these kind of things, to be able to validate your peak. Okay, so you need to take this risk into account when you do your calculation. Marco.
Yes, I would also ask on top to pay attention to the eligibility conditions, because if you are planning to submit a proposal as a mono beneficiary academic institution, and then to add a spin-off that would configure then as two beneficiaries from the same country. So this will not be eligible. So pay also attention to the configuration that will create during or at the very beginning of the project, or even during the grant agreement preparation phase, if you are planning to have this kind of configuration.
Absolutely, Marco. In the same time, the proposals, they have the option of a linked entity. So for example, if you are in university and then you plan a spin-off, then this has a specific the specific case in the model grant agreement. I think it's the name changed, but it's now it's called linked entity, right, Marco?
Yes, correct. But in this case, there needs to be an equity or a contractual link.
Exactly.
And this needs to be mentioned and in some way proved in the proposal.
Indeed, it needs to be demonstrated, so that again it's about validation, and then in that case your proposal will still be considered as mono beneficiary, right? So if your spin-off is obviously from the university, it will be in the same country normally, right? So that caters for that can be also a possibility, okay? But the situation where you have two beneficiaries that they have no link among them from the same country is not possible.
Okay, so let's see.
Is there any other question, Marco?
I'm not seeing question specifically for you at the moment.
Okay, good.
But it doesn't matter. Any question that we haven't not answered, I think we need to, yeah.
Yeah. No, there are no questions that are unanswered. There is a question concerning the support from, I assume, a consultancy. I think I will address this. Well, whenever you provide as a consultant support to a consortium, or a consultant is included in a consortium, I would be very cautious into this. This kind of support needs to be valid and needs to be critical for the success of the project. Otherwise, evaluators tend to consider partners that are put there for the sake of funding or administrative or proposal writing support. Evaluators don't consider this positively in general. So I would suggest to be cautious on this. Okay. Okay, if no other questions, I think we can move to the next presenter, Francesco. Thank you very much, Danos, for
Thank you,
this
Danos.
very
Much
interesting
appreciated.
presentation and very useful.
Pleasure to share.
Welcome.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see me, my camera.
Yeah,
it's
Francesco and Marco.
Here we are. Can you do the microphone test, Marco? Okay, it works.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, we now I share the slides, so we can start. Next, we see what I will share.
Make presenter. You're the presenter.
Okay, no, you are now the presenter, so that's good. Give me 1 second. Why don't you show? Okay. No, I have too many files. 1 second, open in PowerPoint, so I don't know what I will show. Give me 1 second so I close them all and only open the right one. Cancel, share. Okay, you should see the right slides.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good morning to everybody. Here it is Francesco and Marco. We are the two Green Tech program managers on green technologies. We will do this presentation as usual shared. The challenge has been defined by Marco and me. As Viorel and Danos and Marco expressed before, this has been the result of a preliminary study done on the ongoing Pathfinder FET normal or flagship, as well as ERC proof of concept projects, as well as Danos said, based on the emergence of the scientific challenges as well as of the future market challenges. We are speaking here of transition. I fully agree with what Danos said, and I think also Marco agrees that this is the real novelty of EIC, and in particular when speaking about, in our case, of the green part, we choose this title mainly based on the experiences of Marco on the side of process and system integration, because we really believe that this is a challenge where the development from a proof of concept lab tested up to the prototype phase is really where the money is needed to integrate this kind of technologies that now we will describe. So these are the basis with which we focused on this transition challenge. And now I will ask if Marco wants to add something, or we start with the slides. And we prepare slides, colleagues, really based on the text the transition challenge that we can repeat with more, attention what we wrote, and we will try to obviously to answer to all the questions. So this was my premise before starting with the slides. Marco, if you want to add something, or we start with the slides.
No, just join you in thanking Viorel and Marco for the invitation, and we can go on with the slides and present the rationale and the aim of our challenge. So the next one.
Okay. Here there are, I start here, Marco, then I give you the floor more on the technical ones. This generic introduction before at this challenge. So at point with Marco that we can imagine we will receive one more on the generation and such technologies, and the other more linked to the renewable fuel. This is what has been the recognition of the different proposals ongoing or shortly term ended to ERC proof concept and Pathfinder. These, the main broad piece of technology, one more energy related, the other one more chemistry related, are really at the point of being part of the future decarbonization goals and Fit for 55 goals and Green Deal policies, as well as they have been strongly funded by different programs, EU funded, national or regional. And what we see when going in these transition ideas, we really see that what is needed is really the testing and the activities of research and development in system and process integration of this technology. So I give you the floor, Marco, with the second slide.
Yes, the aim of this challenge is to try to propose a follow-up and potential scaling up of some promising and brilliant idea already explored in Pathfinder, PET, or in POC, in ERC, or in all of the other project flagship eligible for this. And in order to better align the fundamental research previously explored with market needs, with the potential specific and concrete applications, maybe we can give sort of examples of what we mean here with process or system integrated technology. For instance, we have some nice and brilliant ideas around bioproteins for photoluminescence, so to produce light from biological products, from engineered proteins. If this technology could be, for instance, integrated into potential end users, such as greenhouses that need light and also heat that is discharged by this process, this could be an example of integration into a process of such technologies. Also, we have nice ideas around interseasonal thermal storage that could store heat for a long term, days, months, capture from the sun. Why not integrating this fundamental research based on chemical looping, basically, into buildings, into facades or windows? This is another ideas, potential example of integration, but we can have several others working on use of thermoelectricity that can be adapted to collection of solar energy and produce directly electricity from the sun, with options that are adding to the conventional PV system also at a thermoelectric effect to increase the efficiency, or some technologies going converting vibration and ambient heat directly into electricity that maybe are proposed in our calls in Pathfinder, but could find after some years of work on these ideas some potential niche areas where they could start thinking to a follow-up or potential market development of these ideas. Research that match harvesting, storage, and conversion technologies are, for instance, well aligned with our aims. Also, that include a systems approach. So when we integrate a process and technology into a broader system, it means that we consider the whole value chain and where these technologies is positioned within it. It is valid, for instance, for hydrogen, which is very relevant, and so we can understand if this we would like to see if these technologies is attaching the problem of logistics of hydrogen or facilitating its integration in the energy infrastructures and so on. So we would like to see where this breakthrough potential ideas is positioned within the broader system or in a cascade of processes, and capturing the specific integration opportunities, including both stationary applications, centralized application, but decentralized, small scale, mobile uses as well. So in let's say agnostic of scale level at this stage.
Okay.
Maybe we can go for the next slide.
Let me add,
Yes.
Marco, just one simple example on what all you said that is somehow linked to the solar energy world. And so, as Marco said, we are both considering, and we know that there are many projects on solar energy conversion, on new PV. And so the idea, exactly as Marco said, to imagine this kind of technology integrated in some sort of systems, as well as when speaking on renewable fuels, for example, there are many projects on solar fuels, and also in this case, we imagine the follow-up once you develop a device to show how you can integrate this kind of technology along the value chain, as Marco said. And so the idea here is really, as Marco said, to evaluate new opportunities of these sustainable technologies into energy systems, as we can write in the last lines, both systems and devices, and both at the component, process, or at infrastructure level. So the idea is really to go from the lab application, so from the testing at TRL 3 or 4, so from the proof of concept to the prototype at the relevant environmental conditions. If we look at the specific objectives, so the idea is to enable the decarbonization of the energy sector, and once again we stress this idea of the energy systems and devices integration, and the idea of the fact that the partnership, we have to consider that we are speaking about the possibility, as Viorel said at the beginning, to apply as mono-beneficiary or as partnerships with different partners. But the idea is just that the team or the partnership that will apply will have to show to have inside the different skills and expertise, just to be able to show that they really consider all the value or supply chain, not compulsory to be partners, but to show that they know who they will need to go from the proof of concept to the prototype level at within the partnership. So these are the expected outcomes. If you want, Marco, just to highlight them, but we already introduced the expected outcomes. But do you want to go, Marco, or do you prefer if I shortly list this one?
No, please go on short, and then I add something.
Okay.
Please,
yeah.
if
So
you want. Please.
Sure. The idea is really to demonstrate a defined use case, as we can read here, and once again, as we said already 3 times, to integrate it at the proposed technology system process level. But when going out of this of the scientific and technological part and going more in the part of the real exploitation of research result, the idea for the applicant is that we expect them to explain how they will further exploit the research results. So it's crucial to clearly identify an exploitation strategy. Or, I mean, this doesn't mean that it will be the right one, but for it, it is important to show to the jury members and to the EIC that you are capable of understanding how you can fully exploit your research results. And so this means, as I said before, to fully identify the supply and value chain, to, for example, on the technological and on the implementation plan, to explain that you can go for particular application of your technologies, but in this case, you know already who can be the final users. This does not mean that they have to be partners, but this means that you already know with whom eventually, if your research results will be successful, you go on after the transition part. And in the same way, when describing the implementation plan, we consider important what we call strategic iterations. So this DBTL, design, build, test, and learn approach is crucial exactly at this level during the transition. And when speaking about exploitation, if necessary, it has to be discussed how you eventually want to use the potentialities of the IP protection in your field, as well as understanding what does it mean, the business model, which kind of business model you really consider relevant for your future application. This does not mean that it will be the right one, but at least that you know which one could be the right one. And so this is why we stress on this integration of the system level, because when we go at the system or the energy system level, we have to consider also the knowledge of the applicants, and we want to see their knowledge of who might be the future final users for their application, as Marco said before, at small or large scale, agnostic of the scale. These are the relevant and important aspects. So I give you the floor, Marco. What you want?
No, just add that we also welcome a good understanding and description of the risk analysis, both in terms of technological risk, because we are starting from a low TRL and some technologies that could be difficult to be integrated or be scaled up, of course, but also regulatory and legislative barriers that could hinder the development of these technologies. Of course, it's still at the TRL is still quite low, is not an accelerator, but the vision of what could be the potential to commercialize this technology and the needs for specific suitable reliable regulatory framework to facilitate the uptake of this innovation could be also important, relevant, and in some cases it's important to pay attention also to this, and also trying to quantify as possible the potential impact in terms of benefits aligned with the goals of the Green Deal and the strategic plan that is at the basis of Horizon Europe. It would be good to try to quantify the expected benefits coming from the development of these ideas within transition.
Yeah, thank you, Marco. Just to conclude, so I go more on the practical side, and then I leave the floor to Marco for the scientific conclusions. The idea, colleagues, when applying to a transition, the suggestion I can give after having been part of the evaluation panels is that you have to well prepare the proposal and well align the proposal with the interview. So this does not mean that your exploitation strategy, as is written here, has to be that you will put in place a startup or an SME. It is not compulsory. An exploitation strategy might mean that you also would love to go for a licensing agreement. But what is important is that when you decide your exploitation strategy, you are able to defend it during an interview in front of a panel that will be done by scientists, but also from people coming from the company side, from the financial side. So people that expect that if you say that you want to put it, that at the end you want to put in place an SME exploiting the research results, you know what does it mean to put in place an SME. Okay, we are at the transition level, but if you say that this is your final exploitation output or outcome, you have to be ready to discuss it, and you have to show that the ideas are improving, but you already have a starting point. And in the other way, so be ready to demonstrate the team that is behind your proposal of the transition. Well, align the team with what is written in the transition eligibility condition. Read them very well, because I really believe that everything is written, but many times we faced with proposals that did not really read very well what was written, and this can cause problems and troubles, as Viorel showed in his slides at the beginning. So my suggestion is, we, as Marco said, we are not speaking of an accelerator. This is a transition. So everything or most of it is different, but fully consider that your exploitation strategy, you will have to defend it. And so align your proposal and your interview with what you wrote as an exploitation part. I leave the floor to Marco for his comments on the scientific parts or on the business part, obviously.
No, yeah, thanks, Francesco. I would like just to add some consideration about the portfolio evaluation, the portfolio concept. The portfolio approach of the transition is completely different from the one implemented in Pathfinder. In Pathfinder, we as program manager joined the evaluation panel committee in order to select a project on the basis of the specific vision of the portfolio, which is described in the topic guide. And there, yes, we want to compose a puzzle with projects potential complementary, both vertically or horizontally, as Viorel was explaining before. So trying to attach the problem from several points of view, or funding proposals in a cascade, so that each proposal could solve part of a broader problem. This depends on the kind of approach on a specific call, of course. In the transition, there is not such effort in first size. Let's say we rely on the review and the evaluators to select successful proposals, not considering per se this potential collaboration. Of course, when we fund the project, then we try to include them in our thematic portfolios where there are links on a scientific basis, on end users, methodologies, and so on. And so they will be fully included in our proactive management approach, support of project, with several tools that we have to nurture innovation and to mobilize most of innovation potential of the proposal. But at the beginning, the evaluation is carried out on the basis of the quality, excellence, impact, implementation, but not scoring the project on the basis of portfolio concept, as happens for the Pathfinder. But yes, of course, synergies with other projects ongoing, both at Pathfinder and accelerator level, are always in our mind, and we always try to facilitate this interaction, building an innovation ecosystem and networking, and organizing focused activities to put these our beneficiaries into cluster portfolios and clusters of projects. Also with outside the EIC, with joint collaboration with ERC or Pillar 2. Yes, we terminated at the moment.
Thank you, Marco.
Yes,
Yeah,
maybe there are some questions.
We did in 50 minutes what was asked to do, so we were exactly on time. I leave the floor to questions. Marco Giorgini, you want to? Yeah, there are questions or not?
Yes. Do we have to target the 3 levels, generation, recovery, storage, or can we target only 2?
Even only one, if there is the clearly this integration approach. So it's not mandatory at all to address both harvesting, storage, and so on. What we want is to see that fundamental research and basic research already explored is aims to be process of systems integrated. So it's not mandatory that we should couple storage and generation per se.
Yeah, the important is exactly to show that you are ready to system or process integrate your technology.
Okay, thank you. There is another question about the portfolio consideration. Maybe we keep it for after, in case there are other questions related to specifically the energy challenge. No, okay, maybe we can address this one. Okay, the question concerning how will applicant know what is the status of portfolio and how to align with this portfolio?
Marco, perhaps I can
actually.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, this is a bit of more generic question. Thank you, Shen. You may remember, I mean, this thing that we foreseen is also in the framework of the discussion about the budget. We don't think that this will happen very often, if at all. But if it happened, we have it there, and I don't think it's possible nor desirable, by the way, to know the status of the portfolio. Because we don't want, proposals that are, kind of trying to fit more or less, I would say, naturally in these kind of things, because that we don't know. It depends on the projects, it depends on the applicants, and we want the best proposals there. So we don't want to, and we don't know this until we reach the end. But Marco and Francesco, I don't know, feel free to answer from your side as a PM. How do you see this question?
Yeah. Basically, I can say that the portfolio concept at first sight, as we discussed it before, unless there are specific budget condition, does not affect the evaluation, because we are not applying the portfolio concept to rank the project and to select which project to fund among the eligible one in the transition, as Viorel you were saying before also. Francesco, you want to?
Exactly, obviously what you said. Yeah, what you said is a right, obviously, answer. I would add that when we read in the specific conditions that in case we will consider, I don't think that this has somehow to influence the applicants, because our portfolio's consideration are based mainly on what we wrote in the call. That means we will most probably, if we arrive at the site at the decision level where the portfolio has to be relevant, we will not focus on one technology, but we will try to have different, kind of technologies funded. And so this is the only thing that is useful for, in my opinion, for the applicants. For the rest, I fully agree with Marco. We don't have to. It will not influence the applicants as well as the jury. So the only thing is what we wrote in the call. I see there is another question.
Of course, this is not necessary to be EIC Pathfinder beneficiary. You could be also coming from an ERC POC or a flagship or a project. There are some eligibility constraints to apply for the transition, if this is the question.
Yes, is it necessary for the applicant to be an EIC Pathfinder beneficiary beforehand? If not, is such an applicant considered competitive in the light of the EIC prioritizing projects coming out of the Pathfinder? There are, as mentioned by Marco, by my colleague PM, there are specific conditions to apply and requirements to apply for this call. The requirement is taking up for further maturation, both technological and business maturation, a result from an existing or an ongoing or recently finished project. And projects, there is the list of projects published indicatively in our webpage. There is the list of calls from which this project should come. As I said, I'm talking about the results, not necessarily beneficiaries. So anyone potentially, Viorel likes to call it new blood, can come and ask for a result from an existing project, and with their agreement try to move this result towards maturation, technological and business maturation.
Marco, if I can add, no prioritization at all for project coming from Pathfinder instead of from ERC POC or from other eligible programs before. So there is, of course, if the project is eligible, the proposal is eligible, there is no prioritization according to his where it comes from.
Thank you for that.
It's the first time that it is good if we do not receive questions, because it means that we were clear explaining, but I see question rising.
Okay, where is the list of the background projects so others could check and try to obtain rights to access those results? I will publish this now in the chat.
Anyway, Marco, they can check for the projects on Cordis, right?
Yes, correct. Okay, at the bottom of this page, you will find the list of eligible projects. Of course, there is a disclaimer with this list. This is an indicative list in the sense that there might be amendments, there might be other factors that might not have included in the list uneligible projects and vice versa. So you're always asked to check the eligibility of your idea, of your application in relation to the work program, to the requirements specified in the work program. For a project being in that list is not a proof of being eligible to apply.
Marco, did we look also in the Q&A tab for the answers?
Yes.
For the question, sorry.
Yes, we have answered this about this question about the 3 levels.
Super.
Okay, let me check if in Slido there is anything. No.
Marco, you are putting the link to our website.
Yes. At the bottom of that page, there is the list of projects.
There are no more questions, Marco.
There are no questions coming up.
So we can thank you all.
Yes.
And close.
Then let's close here ahead of time. I would like to thank you all the PMs, to Marco, to Jonas for the good organization, and to all the participants for the questions. And we are looking forward and are very excited about these 3 topics. And if there are any questions, like mentioned, NCPs are your first line of support, and they will answer or ask us, and we'll be more than happy to answer any other questions. But otherwise, have an excellent day and keep safe. Thank you.